Alfie is a WOR race winner.
Jensen makes it 5 in a row.
Danny Berejnay wins on debut.
Shanaka returns to winning ways in WOR.
Season 12 sees a new man. It's Shadow. He is your Xbox champion.
And Jensen is the new king of PlayStation.
From the back row of the grid, against all odds, Nicholas Longy wins the title.
Goes past the safety car.
What has gone on here?
Bowman spins, stunning move from the Spaniard.
He's taken out Rambo. Here comes Longy.
We're going 4 wide down to turn 1.
Oh, he's taking him out.
The champion run is complete.
Tomek to the inside.
Shadow wins the Brazil. Absolutely sensational.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the WOR YouTube channel for round number 13 of season 13, where the championship hunt is really heating up. The drivers today are taking on the Suzuka circuit in Japan, and everything is lining up to be a spectacular event. My name is Dan Field, and I'm being joined by Luke Etheridge. Luke, how are you doing tonight?
I'm very well, thanks. Good evening, Dan. Good evening to everyone that is watching at home. Intrigued to see how things going tonight. The championship's really started to hot up before we had that previous break due to the real life F1. It is going to be exceptionally close. Japan, as we were saying before, it's an interesting track, certainly on the F1 game, not the easiest to overtake. So it should be a fascinating qualifying session and hopefully a fascinating race.
Absolutely, it is very technical around here, so the drivers do have to be on their A game. At the moment, this championship is looking incredibly close, so one slight slip up and one mistake could ruin some of these drivers' chances. We're looking at the likes of Jarno Opmeer, Thomas Ronhart and Rune Pedrinho. They are the big three at the moment in this championship hunt. Of course, none of them are actually leading the way at the moment. That is still Lucas Blakely, but something tells me if Jarno Opmeer turns up here today, he's only 5 points back from the Scotsman. He can take that championship lead here.
Yes, I'd be extremely surprised if we don't have someone else leading the championship by the end of the night. I mean, Lucas has led it right from the word go. You know, that fantastic start to the season that he's had. Jarno, amazing consistency. I mean, last time out, getting third place from last on the grid, fantastic job. Ronhart's got brilliant pace. And then you've got those further back. You know, Jake Benham, he's a previous champion. We know what he can do. We've seen bits of his talents in esports. And then we've got the non-esport pair, Tom Manley, you know, often the bridesmaid in this league so far this season. So many second places, but a former Xbox champion. And Rune Pedrinho, who's constantly fighting up there with the big boys. And you know, any one of Jarno, Thomas, or Rune could be leading this championship tonight. So yeah, really looking forward to seeing how things work. Again, we said it's not the easiest track to overtake. I wouldn't be surprised if anyone can manage a last to third here. And we've got some quite big names from esports here, because the final 3 races of the WOR calendar are the same as what they're using in Event 4 in esports. A lot of the drivers are using it as a bit of practice, and who can blame them?
Yeah, absolutely. We've got the likes of Alvaro Carreton, Shanaka Clay and Matthijs van Erven returning to the grid this season, and Daniele Haddad is making his first start this season. So we've got bags of quality on the grid, and I'll actually run you through all the teams that the drivers are racing for today. So we have in the Mercedes, we have Jake and Jarno Opmeer, the two familiar faces that we have seen in both esports and in WOR. Liam Parnell and Tino Naukarinen in the Red Bull, and then Ferrari is Alessio Di Capua and Mirko Soriano. McLaren is heated up by Rune Pedrinho and Daniele Haddad, I believe that is. and then Alpine is Ikabanya and Georges Nader. The AlphaTauri, Max Wiesel and Jack West, I believe that is. And then Aston Martin is Simon and Manuel Biancolila. And then Williams is the Williams pair in esports, Shinaka Clay and Alvaro Caraton. Alfa Romeo's Carter Lundy and Keaton Lutt. And then the Haas duo, the Dutch, the dynamic Dutchman of Thomas Ronhaar and Matthijs van Erven. This is a fantastic grid that we have tonight, Luke. We have full qualifying on the way, and we are about to get this one going.
Yeah, it should be fantastic. We've seen so far this season so many different drivers looking good at different points. Lucas dominating the start of the season. We were wondering if he was going to be back, but it looks like his championship challenge is going to end due to him deciding not to take part. Jarno's been there or thereabouts in nearly every single race, really, that he's taken part in. He's been towards the front, but we've started to see a bit like we started to see in esports. Thomas Ronhaar just doing fantastic jobs. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, if we go back to the United States Grand Prix, went for a slightly different strategy, went longer in his first stint, came out in the middle of the pack, and was just so good on fresh tyres, overtook everyone, and managed to do a fantastic job taking the victory there by, I'd say dominant victory, but really, if we're being honest, in league racing and anything as close as WOR, if you win a race by more than a second, that tends to be a fairly dominant race.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the gaps are so close on around the circuit like Suzuka, where there is hardly any margin for error. These drivers are really going to be on their limits, and I think we can see a very close qualifying. Of course, we have Q1, Q2 and Q3 coming up. It is going to be the 18-minute session of Q1, where we eliminate the bottom 5 drivers from this qualifying, and then we'll move on to Q2. Then the next bottom 5 will be eliminated, and then the top 10 will have their shootout. We're finally getting ready to load into this lobby. I'm in a black screen at the moment, but there it is. It's looking like a little bit of clouds in the sky. Nothing too threatening. I don't think we're going to see any rain, but it looks like they could pose a threat to the drivers maybe later on in the session.
Yeah, I mean, we know from this year, we know from many other Japanese Grand Prix, rain's never too far away in this part of the world. So if we see drivers heading out there straight away on a set of soft tyres, you'd probably suspect we are going to get some rain in this session. But it looks like, we've seen Perrier do it, Wiesel, West and De Capua all doing it. It could be that now traditional first laps on a set of the intermediate tyres, just to get a little bit of a feel of what the car is going to be like. But saying that, someone heading out of the pit lane straight away on a set of the on a set of the soft tyres. Now, this is not something that we see too often, but Cartalondi going out there straight away on a set of the soft. So, who knows? Maybe we are going to get a tiny bit of rain at the some point in this Q1 session, and the drivers might have to head out a bit earlier than we suspected. But for now, it is just Carter heading out onto the track, and I think we've got a Ferrari and an AlphaTauri starting to join him.
Yeah, some drivers have opted for the intermediate tyres. Alessio De Capua and Max Wiesel are coming out on that green wall set for Cartalondi. Maybe just being the contrarian this evening, and I'm not too sure what he really is doing, because, of course, normally in WR it's pretty much a guarantee that the drivers will run on the intermediate tyres. We've seen Tino Naukarinen also exit the pit lane on a set of the intermediates. This might be a confidence thing for Carter Lundy. If he's not feeling too quick, he might want to have more cracks at the whip around this track to try and get himself out of Q1. Maybe his goal could be to get Q2. I'm not too sure this evening, but we'll see what the Canadian driver in the Alfa Romeo can do as he rounds spoon curve. And this is a very interesting corner. You can run a little bit wide through both the mid part and the exit of the corner, and it is crucial to get a good run through here when you are on your lap, or if you're trying to overtake someone, because it is completely flat out through here, even through 130R all the way to the Casio Triangle, which I think, Luke, is going to be a hot spot for overtakes this evening.
Yeah, there's only one DRS zone on this circuit in towards turn number 1, but it is going to be, I think, the Casio Triangle. Like you said, that is the main overtaking point. We've already lost the Bollard at that chicane. We have 2 minutes 20 gone in your session, so give yourself a pat on the back if you expected it to go that far. But here comes Cartalondi on the first hot lap of qualifying.
And here he is in towards the first corner, almost completely flat through turn 1, having to brake in towards turn number 2 short. Running wide through there, going off the circuit, keeping it on the curbs, and he's not been able to invalidate, so this is good for Cartalondi so far. In towards now the twisting S's section at the end of the first sector, and in towards a Dunlop curve. It could be deceiving this corner. Sometimes you feel like you could take it flat out, but then it catches you off guard and you go off the circuit. He's done this quite nicely. It's a 32.311 as he heads up towards the hairpin, when we could see some very ambitious dive bombs later in the race. At times get desperate, heavy lockups through there, and a lot of short shifting for Carter Lundy, trying to get the power down as early as possible towards the end of the second section. That's going to be right before 130R, but so far, Luke, it's not looking like Carter's too confident on his lap.
No, just reading him a Discord, he was doing time trial quite late. I mean, we know that's typical for a lot of drivers, but he really was leaving it until the last minute. I don't think Carter has got that confidence that he quite needs. You don't really need much confidence in through 130R in a modern Formula 1 car. Straightforward, flat-out corner there. And then into that Casio triangle. Taking it the right way round, taking as much curve as you want, not taking it ridiculous. The CV line, and Carter Lundy is going to finish this lap time, and yeah, 128.926 certainly won't be good enough. I think he is still just getting a bit of a feel for what the circuit is like at the moment.
Yep, and we'll have to wait and see for some more soft times, because everyone out on the circuit at the moment is on a set of the intermediate. Alessio Capo's just come across the line with a 134.2. I'm seeing someone in the live chat is asking who Hello is. That is Matthijs van Erven. I'm not too sure why he's got his name as Hello, but yeah, that is the Haas Esports representative of Van Erven out on circuit at the minute on his set of the intermediate tyres. We're not going to see any times that I'm losing my words. It's been a while since I've been in the commentary box, everyone. Apologies, but we're not going to see the timing screens lit up for a good few laps here.
No, this is traditional. I do wish there was some way on the F1 game you could have a shorter Q1 and a shorter Q2, because we see this so often now, and we see quite a bit of that, as well as Matthias just putting a wheel on the exit of Spoon Curve, really waking himself up if he wasn't already there, going on that set of the intermediate tyres. Now, interestingly, it's showing Jake Benham on the pit lane at the moment on a set of the mediums. It was a couple of weeks ago we had that update to the F1 game where it let you choose how many of each compound of tyre you wanted to have going into qualifying and therefore going into the race. And we did see Ronhar manage to do a fantastic job of getting through Q1 on a set of the medium tyres at COTA. So we'll see whether anyone can do that tonight. But again, for now, everyone's just settling down. Everyone's just getting these first runs in. Don't want to waste a set of the soft tyres, and it gets themselves that nice little delta on the board so they can see themselves going green later on. And hopefully, I think most of these will be thinking that they can hopefully get themselves round and only having to do one flying lap.
Yeah, of course, we typically see in Q1 drivers coming out around about the 10-minute mark. So about 2 minutes from now, we'll start to see drivers fitting on a set of the soft compound of tyres and then going out to start their first bankers. Ideally, of course, you'd only want to use one set of the softs in this session, but if need be, some drivers towards the back of the grid would need to come out on a fresh set of the tyres to really give themselves that second shot. But we'll just have to wait and see who that is. We only have 3 times on the board, and only one of them is from a driver on a slick set of tyres. The only driver out on circuit at the minute is Matthijs van Erven, and he's on his in-lap. So, Luke, we've got a little bit of a lull period as Van Erven's just testing the extremities of the track here, and I think he's trying to do some drifting here. He's doing quite well, actually, I think.
Yeah, Formula 1 cars aren't the easiest things to drift, really, on the game or in real life, despite how well some of the different esports drivers like to do on their own streams. We'll see how he does through 130R. Yeah, even on a set of intermediates there, he was slowing down, but just got so much downforce and so much grip that was straightforward. Taking a bit of an interesting line across the chicane and diving it into the pits. And yeah, it is very quiet out there on the track at the moment. Not too many drivers, interestingly, choosing to go out on a set of the intermediates. I was reading in the Discord, it does sound as though things are going to be all dry for qualifying and possibly all dry for the race as well. So it's not like they are saving any tyres for later, obviously choosing at the moment not to really bother by doing that traditional intermediate tyre run. I think we saw Simon Perignier and Max Wiesel try that, but both invalidate their lap, which is easily done. And Carter Lundy heading out there again. We'd expect this to be a much quicker time from Carter, and I'm sure in the next couple of minutes we'll see a few others heading out there for their first soft runs as well.
Yeah, I do hope that Carter Lundy's got a little bit more in the tank than the 28.9. I don't think that's going to be good enough to see him through into the next session of qualifying. And of course, he's already used up a set of the softs, so really he is on the back foot at the moment. Tino Naukarinen also coming out onto the track, as is Keelan Lutt. I've seen someone in the live chat supporting the pair of them. That is Chikara Musti. Let us know, everyone, if you are watching, who you are supporting this evening as well. We would love to hear which drivers have your backing in this Japanese Grand Prix, as it feels like now we are finally beginning to see the start of this qualifying session. 8 minutes too late, but what more can we expect from WOR?
Yeah, I think everyone here who's been here on Sundays over the last few months will have been used to this. Right now, anyone who's seen F1 Esports, anyone who's seen the various different leagues that use full quality, it's the way things are at the moment, with the soft tyres basically on this game being a bit of a qualifying tyre at the moment. I'll be very surprised if we see anyone go for the soft tyres in the race around Suzuka. It traditionally has been a circuit that is very hard on the tyres, but Carter just about getting ready to start his second run in qualifying. Thomas Ronhart able to get back in the session. Wouldn't be surprising if he's one of the drivers who can go fast enough on his first run. And we'll see what Carter Lundy can do on this one. DRS wide open on the way downhill towards turn number 1. A bit of traffic on the right-hand side that sticks well out of the way. And Carter making his way smoothly through turns number 1 and 2. And this is where, it must be absolutely fantastic to drive a Formula 1 car through the S's, feathering the throttle, feathering the brake, where you need to, really needing confidence in the car that it is going to stick and not understeer and send you towards the gravel, especially as you come through that Dunlop curve, as you mentioned earlier, Dan. Very easy. Just put a wheel on the outside there and get yourself in all sorts of trouble. Carter, about a tenth of a second up at the moment. You could probably chalk that down to track evolution, though, more than anything.
Yeah, there's a little bit more rubber going down on the circuit, and Carter's done well to get himself out early enough that he has avoided all of the traffic in the worst part of the circuit. If he were to catch those guys that come out just in front of him as he was headed through the S's, that would have been a massive issue for the Canadian. He's about to come towards the end of the second sector, and riding on board with him, you can tell he is just more confident in this car. So I think he's finally getting to grips with his bearings this evening. We'll see what his sector time is in sector 2. He's up by 0.2 of a second. It's not well beating, but it is at least an improvement. In towards now the Casio triangle, where his lap could be made or broken. He's taking that quite nicely. A slight lock up at the first part, and oh dear, having to save the car at the end. It was a good save in the at the end of it all, but he was only able to improve by 0.8 of a second. He's thrown away at least 0.2 in that final corner. And I think I spoke too soon when I said he'd taken that quite nicely, because that is really going to hamper him in this qualifying session.
I wonder if someone's put some oil down or something on the final corner. Went on board with Tino Naukarainen there. He was completely locked up through that part of the circuit. Had already invalidated his lap time, so that made no difference whatsoever. Caden Lutt's gone fastest of everyone on a 1:28.6, so he's clearly finding some grip out there, but a few drivers finding it tricky at the moment. Simon Perronier just about to start his hot lap at the moment. Liam Parnell also doing the same. He's just about to start his lap, so we're not seeing anyone massively lighting the timing screens up at the moment. I think we'll be expecting plenty more improvements, and let's see what the man who's second in the championship at the moment, he's got a fantastic chance of leading the championship at the end of the night. Jarno Otmir just making his way through the first sector.
Yeah, Jarno Otmir, he's got a lot riding on this evening, because he knows that Thomas Ronhart is very hot on his heels. Just, what's that? That's 8 points back at the moment in the championship hunt. Of course, they still have to get past Lucas Blakely, but if the pair of them have a good race today, then they are going to shoot ahead of him, as Alessio De Capua goes quickest of them all so far, 1:28.416. Manuel Biancolila was able to get close behind his fellow countryman. 2 Italians locking out the front row of this grid so far in Q1. Jarno Otmir about to come to the end of the second sector. What can the Dutchman do? We'll see what he is looking like at the minute. It's going to be a 12.2, and I don't believe that is insanely quick. Bruno Pedreño, championship contender, a 28.4. We can expect Jarno Otmir to probably go around about the same pace as these guys. We'll find out as he comes through the final corner. Once again, having to correct the car ever so slightly through there, but it's only 8 fastest for Jarno Otmir, 1:28.8, and I believe that he is going to have to go again.
Yes, certainly. There's no way that's going to be fast enough to get you through to the final part of qualifying. No one's got a qualifying ban. No one's made any mistakes in the early stages like we saw in USA, so Slowest 5 drivers will be getting knocked out. Then the next Slowest 5 in Q2, and obviously top 10 in a straight shootout for pole position, but already Jarno dropping down towards 10th place. at the start of the season, Jarno doesn't have many weaknesses, but at the start of the season, you could argue qualifying was his weakness. It's certainly not been Ron Haas as he goes fastest. But Jarno seems to have solved that. We've seen it in esports, we've seen it in WOR. He seems to have sort of got on top of his qualifying, so he'll probably be a bit disappointed by that lap, which right from the start didn't look fantastic. And another driver who had that little bit of an issue coming through the final corner. It's a few F1 games ago. A lot of people will remember this, and I'm sure you do as well, Dan. There was a massive bump on the apex of the final corner, which was an absolute nightmare because it didn't exist in real life and just caused chaos for other drivers. It's the way these cars are reacting through that final part of the track. It's almost like that bump has magically reappeared.
That's actually what I was thinking as I saw Cartalundi drifting through there essentially. I thought that maybe the bump would come back, but it certainly isn't there. I mean, we've both driven this track before on this game, and both of us have some interesting opinions on how it drives, but the bump certainly isn't there. So it is quite interesting to see these drivers losing it out of that final corner. Jarno Opmeer certainly wasn't to the extent of Cartalundi's. It was only a slight little jolt left of the wheel, and it's hardly noticeable, to be honest, but still neither of them on a good lap time at the moment. We're still yet to see Tino Nalkarinen, Shanaka Clay and Daniele Haddad set a lap time. Matthijs van Erven also without a representative run, and Simon Perronier, arguably that is not representative of his true pace. So at the moment, Luke, it is looking like this is anyone's game as we come towards the end of Q1. Got 3.5 minutes left in this session. Everyone is coming back into the pit lane. I'd say if you're around about where Jake Benham, Mirko Soriano is, I'd say you are safe on where you are. But if you are below that, I think you have to strap on fresh set of the soft compounder tyres and try once again in this session to better your time and secure your spot in Q2.
Yeah, I think, Thomas Ronhaus certainly safe. Alessio again doing another fantastic job in qualifying. It's surprising given the pace that he started showing towards the end of this season that he has only had 2 points so far, getting those in Saudi Arabia, because he's really stepped his game up, certainly, in the qualifying session. I mean, Ruben Pedreño feels safe at the moment. I'd imagine Alvaro Cavaton and Manuel Biancalila on the 128.4s as well. They're probably safe. Everyone else might just be feeling a bit nervous because you have got effectively 4 drivers out there who haven't set a lap time. Matthijs van Erven hasn't set a representative one on the softs, and now Karine, Clay and Haddad yet to set any lap time whatsoever. Jack West, he feels confident enough at the moment, but yeah, I definitely think if you're Jake and below, you've got to head out there on the circuit. 2 minutes 20 remaining. Caden Lott, he's down in 10th place at the moment, and he's feeling he needs to get out there again. He needs to improve on this time. A former race winner, of course, on the Xbox platform.
Of course, Caden Lutt, formerly known as Snazzy Evening 44, he's onto the PC platform now, competing in Tier 1. He's been a staple in both the Xbox racing scene and in the PC racing scene for what feels like years at this point. I remember watching old videos where he would be league racing against some YouTubers, and he's always been there, and I would really like to see him in the next session. Currently in P10, he's on a decent enough lap time at the moment, and he's got plenty of drivers that are near him. So if he only finds a small improvement, but those other drivers make a mistake and don't improve, he can still shoot himself up, 3 positions. So Caden Lutt, he really does have to commit to this one, as he heads down this short back straight over where the part just before the hairpins after the Degner Cross is the only, of course, figure 8 circuit on the F1 calendar. Caden Lutt in towards now the final 2 corners. He's going to begin his lap where he could either be eliminated from Q1 or secure his spot in Q2. Here he goes.
Yeah, pressure is really on now, Caden Lutt, at the moment. I mean, it's interesting that Jack West has retired from the session. Alvaro Cavaton has stayed in the pit lane, but Manuel Biancalila felt the need to come out there at the moment. We've got different predictions in the chat. 28.6. We've got someone saying of 28.1. I think if that's for cut-off time, I'll be absolutely astounded if anyone can manage a 28.1 in this session. But here comes Caden Lutt, throwing that Alfa Romeo through the S's in a bit of a lower gear than what we saw some of the drivers doing it early on. So whether he just has the confidence in that lower gear to do that. But at the moment, he's already a 10th of a second up. So we could see some big improvements here. I hope if Jack West's watching that, he might be feeling a bit nervous, because already, even if Caden doesn't improve over the rest of the lap, he will move ahead of the AlphaTauri driver. And we've seen drivers caught out so far this season where they thought they were going to be safe, and they've ended up dropping down to 16th or 17th.
Well, yeah, Jack West might be in a little bit of a spot of bother, but he's going to need a lot of drivers to improve on their times as Caden Lutt, the end of the second sector. We'll see what he can do as he climbs up this crest. No DRS through here, and the new lap times can be begun, and he is up. He's lost a little bit of time in this second sector, but he's still improving by a tenth of a second, and this is enough to put him ahead of Jack West as the Alfa Romeo driver for this evening comes through the final two corners. How can he manage it through here? He's done that quite nicely and to come across the line. He's going to secure himself in P7, not too far off the back of Jack West, of the AlphaTauri driver. Caden Lutt's teammate for this evening, Carter Lundy, is headed in towards the final two corners. He's had a tough time in this session so far. He's only up by 0.07 of a second towards the line. Here he comes, and he goes 8th fastest, of course, making all that time up in the final sector. Jarno Opmeer, though, only goes 14th position. That is very, very poor and very, very shocking, I would say, from him. Van Erven not been able to get himself out of Q1. Simon Perronier eliminated from this session. Daniele Haddad in the McLaren has just gone into second position and puts Jarno Opmeer in danger of being eliminated. Can Ikabayanya? Can Liam Parnell? Can Shanaka Clay eliminate him? Indeed, Shanaka Clay can. He knocks Jarno Opmeer out of this first session, and he goes to the top of the order with a 1 minute 28.275. Liam Parnell not able to get himself out of that bottom five. Ikebayanya secures his space in the next session. Mirko Soriano jumps into P10, and then I believe that was who was that coming across the line? That was Jake Benham into 4th, which means Carter Lundy unfortunately does not survive this session.
Yeah, it doesn't. Carter Lundy just dropping out at the end, and Jarno Opmeer, he said he didn't want to be doing a last to first round, well, a last to anything. Did 20th to 3rd, obviously, at USA. Winning from 17th has been done here by his Silver Arrows. Kimi Räikkönen in 2005 managed it in the McLaren. I'd be surprised if Jarno can get up to a victory from there. Not an ideal qualifying session whatsoever. His teammate gets through comfortably in the end in 4th place after one bit looking like he was out. But it's Shanaka Clay on his return to the top tier. Fastest in Q1, the only driver to get into the 128.2s.
Absolutely, an impressive time from him there, right at the death of the session to secure Jarno Opmeer's fate in that bottom five. Thomas Ronhaar, with his first time of the session being a 1 minute 28.3, that was enough to put him in P2. Haddad is 3rd, Benham is 4th, 5th is De Capua, 6th for Max Wiesel, Rune Pedreño 7th, 8th for Nal Karinen, Alvaro Caraton 9th, Bianca Lila 10th. And outside the top 10 and just about surviving is Soriano, West, Lutt, Nader and Bayanya. And then your eliminated 5 are Carter Lundy, Jarno Opmeer, Matthijs van Erven, Simon Perronier and Liam Parnell. And the big story, of course, from that session, Luke, is that Jarno Opmeer has been eliminated. That is really going to put him in a tough position to hold his advantage in this championship ahead of Thomas Ronhaar, who seems to be on just in very impressive form at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen this basically every race where Ronhaar's decided to take part in qualifying. He's been there or thereabouts at the front of the grid, and again was able to get through that session with only one run. So he's got a spare set of soft tyres that I think we'll be seeing from him using in Q3. So a fantastic job by him. Jarno, really, in the grand scheme of things, wasn't far off the top of the order. Only about 0.4 of a second, but league racing's exceptionally close. Jarno knows that, and in the end, it was not enough. I still reckon he's going to get points. It wouldn't surprise me if he got a very good result from this race, but we've said it before, Japan is a difficult track to overtake on, so might need to try something different on the strategies. If we get safety cars or anything, we probably can't write anyone out of this race at the moment, but as you can hear in the background, Q2 is underway, and Thomas Ronhaar, one of the first drivers out on circuit.
And we can assume that this is a scrub set of the soft compound tyres that he was able to get himself into this session using in that first session, and we'll see what he can do. Of course, we're not really going to see incredible fast times at the moment, but at least we have cars on the circuit, unlike the first 8 minutes of Q1 where it's just a few drivers out on the intermediate tyres. Interestingly enough, again, Jake Benham has fitted a set of the mediums in the pit lane. He did that at the end of the first session, or at the beginning of the first session, but he never acted on it. I wonder if we're going to see the young Englishman coming out on that set, and indeed he does. Jake Benham exiting the pit lane now with the yellow wall tyre on.
Yeah, I think this just shows what everyone is doing. They're just trying to get that bit of a delta at the moment. So rather than using the old set of tyres, going out there on a set of the mediums in a In a normal situation, you're only going to be using one set of mediums in the race, and he ideally hope that that is going to be the new set that he gets, obviously, for the race. So Jake heading out there at the moment, again, just setting a delta time, so it's a bit easier to set a faster lap later on, and you've not got the risk of heading out there on a set of the intermediates. So straight away, he's doing his best Valtteri Bottas impression and going lawn mowing through the first sector at the moment is Mr. Benham. Interesting line to take. Thomas Ronhart heads on to the first flying lap of Q2.
Yep, and like Carter he absolutely obliterated the bollard at the Casio Triangle, and I think the marshals are going to have quite an annoying time picking those up as this session goes on when we get into Q3. But in towards the first sector, even though it's a scrub set of the tyres, Thomas Ronhart just looks so planted through here. He's controlling this car with such precision. He's going over the tyre tracks that Jake Benham's left with his gravelled up medium tyres, but at the end of the first sector, it's going to be a 32.327 from Ronhart. That is mighty impressive, considering we do believe that this is a scrub set of the tyres in towards the hairpin, where we could see plenty of overtakes in this race. You notice how high of gears these drivers actually use. He went through that in fourth. I'm not too sure why and how that is the meta, but I don't know. The drivers just seem to make it work, and I think maybe you and I, Luke, we should adopt some of these strategies that they use.
Yeah, it's always been the thing when I've had a few people comment on my driving. Unsurprisingly, it's not that great on Formula 1. I've just never been able to get around the fact that you've got to go around these slow corners in fourth gear. It's just naturally in my head it seems wrong, but if you use a lower gear, you're going to end up facing the wrong way pretty much no matter how talented you are. And you can even see there as they make their way through the Casio Triangle, you don't see Formula 1 cars doing 60 mile per hour in fourth gear too often, but that's what we've got here. Thomas Ronhart towards the line, 128.719, and a reminder that is on a old set of the soft tyres, so don't really look too much into that at the moment. Max Wiesel going a bit slower at the moment. I am interested to see what kind of like Jake Benham can do on this set of the medium tyres at the moment, where you can get relative to those that are on a used set of softs.
Yeah, well, in the first sector, he's about a tenth slower than Thomas Ronhart. So you know what? I don't think that's too bad pace. I would say that one lap old softs are still going to be quicker than fresh mediums. So Jake Benham, maybe he's got some good pace around here as all the drivers just filing through, completing their lap times, getting a delta on the board. And I like to bring it up every week that it sort of brings a psychological effect of, you know, that you're improving, so your confidence as the lap goes on just continues to improve. So of course, once again, once it hits about the 10-minute mark and we see drivers coming back into the pit lane, that's where we're going to see them fitting on the fresh sets of tyres. But Jake Benham, once again, I believe a further tenth slower than Thomas Ronhart. He's going to go quicker than a good few of the soft compound runners if he wasn't able to invalidate. Unfortunate there from Jake Benham, headed back into the pit lane. But I'd say his medium lap there, that looked very, very promising.
Yeah, that's not bad pace at all from the all-star Jake Benham. I think he'll be very happy with how that lap went. Just almost looked like a deliberate invalidation for the final chicane, if I'm being honest. I think he knew he was taking a bit too much curb there. Suzuka, it's not normally a track you see too many track limit penalties. You can get them, you know, at that part of the circuit. You can also get them on the exit of Spoon as well, but it's an old school circuit. There's a lot of grass and gravel out here. Jake Benham has found most of it for the first sector on his outlap. It punishes you for making mistakes. You probably won't see too many track limit penalties, even though we have seen, obviously, a few invalidations in qualifying. Tino Naukavainen now heading out there on the circuit. Great to see Tino getting through to Q2. Not seen it too often this season. Still looking for his first points of the season. We'll wait and see what he can do. And Caden Lott, also another driver, looking for their first points so far. Ronhart, Biancalila, Clay, De Capua, Haddad, Soriano, Wiesel, the only drivers to set a time. None of those times will be good enough to get them through to Q3, though.
No, they are going to have to come out on a fresh set of the soft compound of tyre. With what I can assume is, sorry, I think I had a bit of a lag spike there. I was saying Caden Lott just beginning his lap. What I can assume is a set of the fresh soft compound of tyre in towards the first corner, almost completely flat through here, then stamping on the brake, short shifting from fourth into fifth. He's got some traffic ahead of him and he's catching him at a very bad time, touching the inside curb there as well. It's not going to do him any good. Caden Lott looking a little bit uneasy on this lap so far as the Alpine cars, I believe, Ikabayanya gets out of the way nicely indeed. But the end of the first sector, we'll see what he is on. It's a 32.4. It's only a tenth slower than Thomas Ronhard, granted. That is on a scrub set to the tyres. So Caden Lutt not looking too strong at the moment. Into the hairpin. He's still got plenty of this lap to go. We'll have to wait and see what he can do as he heads in towards the mid part of this lap.
I'm surprised he hasn't backed off of this lap, to be perfectly honest with you there, Dan. Massive slide coming through Sector 1. You do not want to go anywhere near the curbs through the S's on this game. They will send you pirouetting in the wrong direction. Caden did a brilliant job to hold on to the car, but I think from that point, the lap's not going to be good enough to get yourself through to Q2, Q3. Just back off, save some ERS if you want, and you've got enough fuel left in the car, you will be able to get around and do another lap. You've invalidated early enough on but Caden perhaps choosing just to see what he can do, see if he can get that bit of a delta on the board through the final chicane. Comes Caden Lutt, massive side again through the final corner, perhaps getting a bit of dirty air from the car in front. And again, 128.815, not an ideal lap whatsoever. He will certainly be heading out onto the circuit once more. Tino Naukavainen just making his way through the hairpin at the moment. And you said, Dan, that could be an overtaking opportunity. There's not many on this circuit. I wouldn't be surprised if in the final few laps of the race, if things are pretty close, we see a few cars sending it into that hairpin.
Yeah, and if we get a late safety car as well and the pack gets completely bunched up, it's going to be very difficult to find an opportunity to overtake. So sometimes you just have to channel your inner Daniel Ricciardo, lick the stamp and send it up the inside of a hairpin corner as Tino Naukkarinen comes through the final sector, now in towards the Casio Triangle. We'll see what the Finn can do. As you said, very nice to see him in this second session of qualifying. I'd love to see him in Q3 as he goes in towards P4, slower than Caden Lutt. He was about 2 tenths quicker as well through the first sector. I think he's lost all of that time in Sector 2. Really unfortunate from Tino Naukkarinen. And once again, we are going to have to see him come back out on circuit and set another lap. That is not going to be good enough to get himself into Q3. And with only 6 minutes to go left in this session, I'd imagine he's going to be feeling quite a bit of pressure.
Yeah, but is everyone going to be feeling that pressure at the moment? No one has set a clean lap time. Will Ruben Pedreño be the first driver to set a valid clean lap time in this session? That is more like it. 128.281, matching what we saw from Shanaka Clay in the first qualifying session. I expect that will be good enough for the Spaniard. He's been a bit of a revelation this season. I think we've always known that Pedreño's got some pretty good pace, but he's been able to go toe-to-toe with esports drivers on multiple occasions, and he's still got a chance of leading the championship at the end of the night. When there's drivers like Jarno Opmeer, Thomas Ronhard in this field, who we all know how good they are, and we've seen them do it on many occasions. But yeah, brilliant lap there by Ruben Pedreño. That will certainly, I think, be good enough to get him through to the next part of qualifying. Alvaro Cavaton goes up into second on a 128.3. Daniele Haddad, first man into the 128.1s. Shanaka Clay, 6 tenths up on his personal best. He's in the drop zone at the moment. Don't think he will be in about 10 seconds time, though.
Yeah, we'll see him come through the final 2 corners as Thomas Ronhard goes to the top of the order. A 1:20 flat from him. Shanaka Clay, oh dear, he does improve by 4 tenths of a second, but he's only in P9. Granted, he is still 4 tenths ahead of anyone else behind him. So I would say there's a lot of pressure riding on these guys at the moment. Mirko Soriano's just come across the line to go into P5. I think we've got a Red Bull that's coming into the pit lane. Is Tino Naukkarinen. I think that this is the end of the second stretches of laps, and it is a very tight and congested field at the moment. 5 cars arguably in that drop zone without a representative lap time. We saw Jake Benham go 4th in Q1, 11th in give than what he has shown so far in this session. So it's just a good idea for him to come back into the pit lane, fit on a fresh set of the tyres, and go once again with 4 minutes left to go in this session.
Yeah, effectively one-shot qualifying now for Benham, Naukkarinen, De Capua and Baena, who's still yet to set a lap time whatsoever. Brilliant job from Thomas Ronhard to get into the 128.0s. I think we can safely say we're going to see at least one driver in the 127s when it comes towards Q3. And, you know, we all know he's got brilliant pace, but Daniele Haddad, we've not seen him in WOR this season. We've not seen too much of him in anything, really, recently, but doing a fantastic job showing that he's still got that pace. In second place at the moment. I said his teammate might be feeling pretty comfortable on that 128.281. I still think he will be safe on that time, but he might start getting a bit nervous in the final moments, because we know Jake Benham's an exceptionally quick driver. We saw Shinaka Clay get high up earlier on. He's on the bubble at the moment. Alessio De Capo has been brilliant in qualifying. Ruben could easily end up missing out at the moment. Don't be surprised if he heads out there on circuit just in case he needs to improve later on.
Yeah, of course, you don't want to give yourself too much confidence at this point, and then sort of just overthink. I don't know what I'm really going for, but I guess you don't want to give that arrogance to yourself where you think you're going to be safe. Then all of a sudden, a few drivers start improving behind. All of a sudden, your P6 turns into P10, and there's someone that's 5/10 up right behind you. So these drivers, I think it is better to be safe than sorry. And I do believe that Pedreño knows this. He's going to be the first driver out of the pit lane now in his McLaren. And I'd imagine this is a fresh set of the soft compound of tyres. Thomas Ronhart has retired from this session. How many other drivers in that top 5 are we going to see exit the pit lane? We'll have to wait and see. Keaton Lutt, George Nader, Tino Naukarinen all coming out onto the circuit as well. Of course, Lutt and Naukarinen both in that drop zone. They need a good lap time here to see themselves in the fight for pole position. So we've got 2 minutes left to go in this session. The outlaps are beginning and things are really heating up here in Q2.
Yeah, the outlaps beginning. And if you're wondering why Ruben Pedreño is torturing his Mercedes engine in the back of that McLaren at the moment, just trying to burn off as much fuel as possible. You don't need fuel in the car, obviously, to do an in-lap here. The game will take control of the in-lap for you. You want to be starting your flying lap with pretty much 1 lap of fuel and no more. Every little tiny bit of fuel loses you a bit of performance. I think it's something like 10 kilos of fuel can cost you 4/10 of a second. So burning off as much as possible, Pedreño, at the moment. And yeah, he's not feeling massively confident. Haddad in the pits. I don't think we'll be seeing him come out again. Max Visos decided he's comfortable on that 128.211 at the moment, but Pedreño will be the first person to do a flying lap. He's got Caden Lutt not too far behind him. It's going to be a close one, I think, in this session. Let us know in the chat what time you think is going to be enough. Will the 128.281 we've seen from Pedreño be enough at the moment? Or will we have to see a few more drivers starting to improve? But here comes the Spaniard on his flying lap, making his way down the start-finish straight. 1 minute to go in this session. Benham, Lutt, Naukarinen, De Capo and Baena. Can any of those get themselves into that top 10?
Well, we've got all but the top 3 out on circuit at the moment, so I think we could see some surprise exits, especially if you mess up a lap time. I'm looking at the 2 Williams boys, 8th and 10th at the minute. Alvaro Carreton and Shinaka Clay not safe at all in beginning on their flying lap times. But here comes Pedreño towards the end of the first sector, and he is slightly improving. He's up by 300ths of a second already. This is going to put him ahead of Mirko Soriano, so it's looking decent so far for the Spaniard. He's just got to keep himself composed as he goes down in towards 3rd gear, short shifting up to 4th in that hairpin, and here he comes down towards Spoon Corner. Part of this track, it's a fast left-hander, but it can be very tricky if you understeer ever so slightly. Very easy to invalidate on that outside curb, and once again on the exit of the corner, the clock has struck 0, so that means no new lap times can be started at this point. As here comes Pedreño towards the end of the 2nd sector. He's up by 1/10 of a second. It's looking good for the young Spaniard as he heads through 130R and up towards the Casio triangle, in towards the braking zone. He's got to keep it valid through here. He takes the perfect amount of curves, keep it straight through here in this final corner, opening up the DRS and towards the line. He goes 2nd position ahead of his teammate Daniele Haddad. I would say that he is safe on that lap time. George Nader coming across the line, currently 9th, goes up to 5th, might not be safe with that one there. Now Karinen jumps ahead of him and he goes into 5th position. There comes Jake Benham towards the line and up in towards 4th, and suddenly George Nader not looking too safe. Keaton Lutt comes into the pit lane. He is out of qualifying. Alvaro Carreton is coming up towards the line, but we have Jack West just in front of him. He's invalidated, so if an improvement from behind him means that he is eliminated. Here comes Carreton towards the line. The Spaniard goes ahead, splitting the 2 McLarens and in towards 3rd place. Ikabaina does improve on a lap time, but unfortunately it's only 13th fastest. Alessio De Capo peeling off into the pit lane. Clay comes to the line and puts Mirko Soriano in that drop zone, and he is not pushing on a lap, and that brings us towards the end of Q2. Your 5 eliminated drivers: Mirko Soriano, Jack West, Ikabaina, Keaton Lott, and Alessio De Capua.
And it is a good job Ruben Pedreño improved on that final run. 128.288 would not have been good enough. Soriano slightly faster than that. He's knocked out himself and West. And Lutton De Capua, neither of them got clean final runs. Ika Baena did, but being his only lap, wasn't really able to perhaps get that same confidence. Left a bit in hand, and he ends up way down in 13th. But yeah, fantastic session once again. Thomas Ronhaar showing some brilliant pace. We'll see if he has it all his own way in Q3 though. I think there's still a few drivers that might have a tiny bit more in hand. Ronhaar fastest, Pedreño, Carreton, Clay and Haddad all within a tenth of the Dutchman.
Yeah, incredibly close scenes here in Q2, and hopefully that carries on to Q3. We've got Jake Benham in 6th, Wiesel 7th, 8th now Karinen, Nader in 9th, then Manuel Biancalila just surviving in P10 ahead of his fellow countryman Mirko Soriano, eliminated along with Jack West, Ika Baena, Keaton Lott and Alessio De Capua. An incredibly close end to Q2. Mirko Soriano coming in 11th here, is not even 2 tenths off the back of Thomas Ronhaar, and once again that goes to show, Luke, how insanely close this WOR grid is, and if that is anything to go by, then this Q3 session is going to be monumental.
Yes, I mean, assuming, and it is a big assumption, that they've all got fairly similar straight line speeds, and the main differences we're talking about are being made in the corners here. We're talking about 100th of a second per corner losing out. The difference between being the fastest in that session and getting knocked out and only starting down in 11th place. So a big shame, obviously, for Mirko Soriano that he's not able to get his way through. But we are in towards Q3. Unsurprisingly, very quiet out there on the circuit at the moment. Now, I'm interested to see what some of the drivers do. Obviously, of Ronhaar, he's got plenty of fresh tyres. So I think straight away, he'll be going out there. A lot of the other drivers might only have enough tyres to get one run done. So do they leave it towards the end? Or do they do what we normally see in F1? They just go in the middle when the track's not at its best, but it is a bit quieter, and they can guarantee they're not going to get held up in any traffic. But it is Daniele Haddad. He's not going to have any traffic concerns. He's the first one out at the circuit.
Yep, and I'm wondering if this is going to be a set of a scrub set or a fresh set. I'd imagine that he's not going to have 2 sets of tyres because, of course, he's had to do multiple runs in this session. Thomas Ronhaar is certainly going to have enough tyre, and I think Max Wiesel as well, I believe, is another driver who has got multiple sets of the soft compounder tyre, so watch out for the pair of them. We've got a Red Bull leaving the pit lane. Tino now Karinen, a driver who is mostly this season been eliminated in the first session, manages to get his way into Q3. I'm very impressed and pleased with the performance of Tino today, and I'd love for him to pick up some points in Japan. He's not got many on the board, so I'll be very I think a lot of us are Team Tino today.
Yeah, it would be nice to obviously see different drivers, an old name from F1 esports that we don't really see too much on F1. We see him on other racing sims, of course, at the moment, but he's proving that he's still pretty handy on this game as well. Maybe the fact that Suzuka is on so many different games might just be helping him out a bit at the moment, but doing a great job in that Red Bull. Daniele Haddad, he's heading out onto the, he's heading actually straight back into the pits, so deciding in the end not to continue on that one. Didn't look as though he had invalidated his next lap, but yeah, Daniele Haddad heading straight out there. George Nader out onto the circuit. They're not exactly rushing out at the start of this Q3.
Oh, we've already gone through what is almost a quarter of this session so far. It's almost been 3 minutes since this session started. We've only seen drivers come out for their outlaps so far, and even so, it's only been 3. Daniele Haddad, who's just dove into the pit lane, and then George Nader and Tino now Karinen, Max Wiesel coming out onto the track at the moment. I'm trying to see in the pit lane if there's anyone else leaving the garage or if there's any activity going on there, but it looks very quiet at the moment. There's a McLaren exiting the pit lane. That's going to be Ruben Pedreño, and he might come out in a pretty bad spot for Tino. Actually, I think he's just about going to avoid him here, but Tino now Karinen in that Red Bull car is going to begin his first lap of Q3 around this Suzuka circuit.
Yeah, making his way around turn 1. As we said, it's more just a preparation for turn number 2. That corner, nice and steady on the curb, and then coming through the S's, like a little dab on the brakes. It's interesting to see the different driving styles there as they come through the S's, how much they lift off the throttle, how much they use the brakes, whether they're willing to sacrifice their time, as long as you can make it flat out through Dunlop curb though. It is not a bad idea whatsoever. Tino now coming towards the line. 32.5. I think confirming that he is on a scrub set of tyres at the moment and not too fussed about what this lap time is going to be. Everyone now out on the circuit, either on a hot lap or a out lap. With Tino making his way around that hairpin in towards this long right-hander, and then of course in towards Spoon Corner, where we've seen plenty of invalidations and plenty of drama over the years. Nice and tidy through the first part, and then through the second part of the corner. It's so important, that second part of Spoon, such an easy corner just to get a bit greedy, and then you lose time all the way from the exit towards the Casio Triangle.
Absolutely, it's very, very dangerous through there if you get that one wrong, because you are completely flat here from that point onwards up towards the braking zone now, where Tino now Karinen is at the Casio Triangle in towards the final two corners. We'll see what the Finn can do. I think we've established this is a scrub set of the tyres, and it's going to be a 29 flat. That's about a second slower what the quickest guys were doing at the end of Q2. Georges Nader still on a lap time at the moment, slightly quicker through the first sector than now Karinen was. Still not incredibly impressive, so I do think this is once again a scrub set of the tyres. I think they are just trying to get the lap times on the board at first and then see where they can go from there. Picking up a little bit of the slipstream from the Williams car, headed in towards 130R, and all of a sudden this looking like an all-right lap time from Georges Nader. 12.1 through the first and second sector combined. We'll see what he can do as he comes up towards the line now, out the exit of the final corner. Very tricky to get the traction down through there, but to come across the line, 28.5. It's not well beating by any means, but it's an all-right time if that's a scrub set.
Yeah, it's a very handy time if you want an old set of tyres there. Someone who I think is on a new set of tyres, judging by his first sector, 32.0 for the Spaniard, for Ruben Pedreño, flying his way through that first sector. At the moment, he's got the Red Bull of now Karinen slightly ahead of him, who I'm sure will stay well to the left-hand side, well out of the way of Ruben Pedreño. Can he become the first man to get into the 127s? It won't be on this lap. Just took too much curve on the entry towards Spoon, and then had to drift his way all the way through that Spoon corner. It's still going to be a fairly fast lap time, but has definitely lost himself a couple of tenths at that point of the circuit, and I think wouldn't be too surprised to see him dive towards the pits there, but he might just want to get that delta time on the board. Max Viso 128.226, first proper new tyre run we have seen in this session. Here comes Pedreño towards the line. I mean, a 128.124, considering the time loss, is mightily impressive.
Absolutely, a very nice lap time coming out from him there. Alvaro Carreton, though, decides to go one better, beats his fellow countryman, and goes into the 1 minute 28 flat. I want to watch for Thomas Ronhaar at the moment. He's on an 11.4, but he's invalidated through the Casio Triangle. He's going to complete this lap. We'll see what he would have done through here. 27.8 for Thomas Ronhaar if he didn't invalidate that one. That's going to add a little bit of pressure, I'd say, for the Dutchman, who's been so consistent in qualifying so far, been in that top three through both Q1 and Q2. Really is going to try and make his dash for pole, but he is not going to be able to do it this time by. And look at that, Alvaro Carreton and Daniele Haddad, both of them on a 1 minute 28.090, setting the exact same lap, which is insanely impressive between them.
Yeah, and it always amazes me how, if we could quickly look at the sector times, how you'd see they're in different parts of the circuit, how all the drivers do gain their time. But yeah, Carreton and Haddad, identical. Pedreño, not that far off, and we know he's got more to come from him. We know Thomas Ronhaar has got more to come, so this is going to be a fantastic end to the qualifying session. 4.5 minutes to go. We're going to have a quick word from our sponsors as everyone makes their way back into the pits, getting ready for their final runs.
Welcome back, everyone. Trackside here in WOR at the Suzuka circuit. We're winding things down here in Q3 as the battle for pole really is heating up. Alvaro Carreton and Daniele Haddad, the pair of them on the exact same lap time, currently P1 and P2, but there is a big name in Thomas Ronhaar that has not been able to set a lap time, and his banker time, that would have been about 2/10 quicker than everyone else. The question has been asked in the live chat by the WOR YouTube channel. Let us know who you think is going to get pole position. And Luke, I'm going to throw that exact same question to you. Who is going to come out on top here in qualifying?
I mean, we've got people saying it's not going to be a competition. It is going to be Ron Hart. I'm going to actually go for Ruben Pedreño. I think he lost quite a bit of time there and could have easily been into that 127s. He's got a time up there at the moment, so we could easily perhaps take it a bit more relaxed than what Ron Hart is doing. But yeah, Pedreño, he's going to be my pick. I can see why Ron Hart's an easy pick, and I think a lot of people are going to go for him. If he nails everything, he wouldn't surprise me if he blasts the field apart by a couple of tenths of a second, to be perfectly honest. But I've gone with Ruben Pedreño. I'm going to stick with that, and he's actually the first driver to head out there on the circuit. I'm surprised Ron Hart didn't maybe head out there a bit early on just to give himself that opportunity. If he got his first lap run, he might have had an opportunity to get a second run in, but unsurprisingly, he's got plenty of confidence based on his performances so far this season. He thinks he's going to be able to do it with one lap only. If he gets it wrong, he'll be starting down in 10th place, and that's all of a sudden perhaps advantage Pedreño and Benham in the championship hunt.
That could certainly bring them a lot closer in the fight, and I really do respect you as well, Luke, for not going for the boring answer. And that leaves me to go for the boring answer. I'm going to say Thomas Ron Hart is going to take pole position. I think the reason he's not out on circuit yet is because he's brimming with confidence. He's now exiting the pit lane, and he is giving himself one lap to do this all. He's not come out a little bit earlier and given himself a little bit more fuel just in case he messes up or anything. He still believes that he has got the pace and he's got the consistency to go all the way in this session, and I believe in him. So I'm going to go with Thomas Ron Hart for pole position. However, I would not be surprised if we see Ruben Pedreño taking it here today, because he has been mightily quick on this F1 22 game. He's a young, hot prospect in the F1 esports scene, and I really do think he has been incredibly impressive. He's coming through now, the Casio Triangle, to begin his final run in Q3. Will this be the lap that secures him pole position? We'll find out in just a minute and a half time.
Yeah, flying his way down that straight as well. Let's not forget the two Williams. Caboton's on top at the moment. We've got Pedreño's teammate headed up there. Shinaka Clay was fastest in the first qualifying session. Jake Benham mentioned there in the chat as well. There's plenty of drivers who've got some, great pace. Max Wiesel as well managed to get through to Q2 on only one run, but Pedreño just maybe a tiny bit wide through that part of the S's, and that means you have to take a tighter line next time, so slightly compromised at that part of the circuit, but we'll see what he can do through the sector one time. 5 thousandths up at the moment, and we know he's got plenty more time left in the tank, certainly, as he makes his way through Spoon Curve. Everyone now almost onto their flying laps. Jake Benham and Thomas Ron Hart just making their way through Casio Triangle, so they're all going to get through with plenty of time to spare. They have all got plenty of space out there on the circuit. Now let's see what the Spaniard can do as he comes through Spoon Curve on this occasion. Nice and steady through the entry, so close to invalidating there, but he's just about managed to keep it clean. This could be a lap to put him on provisional pole.
Here we go then, as he comes up towards 130R, and he is up by almost 0.2 of a second. The clock has struck zero. No new lap times can be begun from this point. Will we see a 1 minute 27 for the first time in qualifying this evening, as out of the exit of the final corner, Ruben Pedreño towards the line he comes. It's going to be a 1 minute 27.927, immediately trumped by Georges Nader there with a 1 minute 27.8. Malkarunen goes into third with a 28 flat. Up next towards the line, it's going to be the Williams car of Alvaro Carreton, who was formerly on provisional pole, and he's now purple through the second sector, a quarter of a second up on his previous best time. Here he comes now, opening up the DRS and towards the line. The 1 minute 27.730 comes out from Carreton, putting him now to provisional pole. Can it go back the way of his teammate Clay? It does get close, but not close enough. He goes into P2 at the moment. It's a 1-2 lockout for the Williams team. The Aston Martin of Manuel Biancalila can only manage 8th position. Here comes Haddad to the line now. He's going to stay in 7th. Up next, it is Thomas Ron Hart, flying on his lap at the moment, and towards the line. It's a 1 minute 27.716. What a lap indeed from Thomas Ron Hart. Was there any doubt in anyone's mind that he would deliver when it mattered the most. It wasn't the most dominant performance from Ronha in this session. He's only 14 thousandths of a second ahead of Alvaro Carreton, but he's done it and he is on pole.
Yeah, 4th pole position of the season for Thomas Ronha, more than anyone else. Now that brings him ahead of Tom Manley. Carreton in 2nd, Clay 3rd, George Dada. I mean, I don't think anyone mentioned George did a fantastic job to get onto the 2nd row of the grid. Viso Pedreño, now Karainen, Haddad, Bianca Lila, and Jake Benham. They are going to be your top 10 in this session. And Ronha, you know, maybe this is what I get for doubting him. Did a fantastic job there towards the end of the session. Only 14 thousandths though between himself and Carreton. Shanaka Clay also within a 10 for the second. It's going to be a fascinating 27 laps, I think.
Absolutely, it's going to be filled to the brim with excitement. We're going to see a lot of action on a circuit that is very traditionally hard to overtake, but I think tracks like this, when it comes to league racing, can make for some of the best races because the drivers really do have to dig deep and try and find creative ways to overtake. Of course, normally when it comes to a track with a lot of DRS zones, they just find a way to go right past. But of course, at Japan, there's only one DRS zone, and even then, it's a very hard corner to overtake. So, Luke, there is going to be so much excitement here this evening.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, we'll take a look at the track map. You can see very tight, very twisty Honda test circuit. Back in the day, turn number 1. It is possible to get an overtake done round there. We've seen moves down the inside, around the outside, but you've got to be pretty brave, I think, to go for it through there. So, as we mentioned in qualifying, the Casio Triangle probably going to be where we see the majority of the overtaking action in this race. We'll see what different tyres everyone goes onto the strategy. No formation lap. It's not going to be too long before we are getting this race underway. Can Ronha take the victory from Powell and therefore take the championship lead?
Well, let's find out as everyone's locked in their strategies. Here it goes then. 5 red lights here in Japan for round number 13 of this WOR Championship, and we are underway, and it looks to be a good start from Thomas Ronha. Alvaro Carreton trying to draw level, but he slams the door shut right in his face. They head down into the first corner on the set of the hard compound of tyres, no doubt from him, as we've already got yellow flags, and it is one of the McLarens. It's Daniele Haddad, who has unfortunately gone around at the first corner, but as they weave their way through this first sector, Thomas Ronha leading from Alvaro Carreton, Shanaka Clay in 3rd. They've stayed all the same at this point. Daniele Haddad retiring on circuit. Normally, you do have to come into the pit lane for that one there, but I think frustration has just got the better of him at this point. But Luke, it's been a scrappy start. However, for Thomas Ronha, he's come out on top, and crucially on the worst tyres.
Yeah, fantastic from him. We're seeing, you know, quite a lot of drivers going on, obviously, on that set of the hard tyres. Tino Nakarainen trying to use the best of his medium tyres at the moment. Matthias Van Herven has had his own little problem at the moment, as now Karainen almost on the grass as he's battling with Ruben Pedreño here. On the way down to Spoon, side by side they go. Pedreño has that inside line for now, but now Karainen there, smartly done on the cutback, just forces Pedreño wide. And yeah, he's using those medium tyres as he needs to do. He's gained a place. Biggest winners at the moment, Perrier and Parnell, and it was Caden Lott joint with them, but Caden Lott's actually gone from 14th to 10th place now on that set of the medium tyres, so he's done a fantastic job on these. And Alvaro Carreton almost there, going into the back of Thomas Ronha, and in doing that, has left himself vulnerable to a bit of move on his teammate. No DRS until realistically lap number 4 because of where the detection point is. Shanaka Clay all over the back of his teammate. These two need to make the move now or never, really. The longer they go on, the more it looks likely that Ronha's going to drive away with this race, especially in the second stint.
Yeah, we're really going to expect those dive bomb moves into the hairpin around about the end of this race, but I think Alvaro Carreton and Shanaka Clay, that's going to be their best bet at the moment to get past Thomas Ronha. It's so difficult to overtake, and the longer that they spend behind the Haas car, the better the situation gets for Ronha later in this race. So Alvaro Carreton, he has got to act now. He's got to go late on the brakes through here. He can't go up the inside, but if he gets a good exit, try to send a move in towards Spoon Curve, but not quite at this point. It's not looking good for the Williams driver. He's got some battery as well. He's not used any of it. And this first lap, he might as well just go for it as he gets close in towards Spoon. Not close enough to go up the inside. Ronha, though, leaving himself vulnerable if he gets a bad exit through here, headed up towards 130R. Now he's on the battery. Alvaro Carreton knows he needs to go for this move as soon as possible. Ronha knows this, and he's using up the battery to defend trying to look to the inside line, has to go the long way around off the circuit though. Alvaro Caraton, he's got to concede that position there. He's going to have to look up the inside in towards the Casio triangle. So close to contact between the pair of them. Now with the inside in the final corner, Alvaro Caraton's finally made that move stick. Janaka Clay now is going to be on the back of his teammate, headed down the start-finish straight as he gets by on Thomas Ronha and the two Williams. Now 1 and 2 as DRS gets enabled.
Yeah, I'm not sure Cavaton's going to be too happy about that bit of contact. I'm sure Ronha certainly won't be. And also, what that did do, as you saw, Cavaton making that move just opened the door for Shinaka Clay. So the Williams 1-2 at the moment. They've got to try and work together. DRS has been enabled. We've seen Caden Lott make a few more places. He's up towards 8th place at the moment. So he's done a fantastic job. And it is only at the back of the field Matthias Van Erven, who I don't believe is actually in the session at the moment. So he's effectively our second retirement from this race. So we're not going to be seeing, I don't think, any more of Matthias unless he is able to rejoin the session. Ronald's got to hold on. He's just going to try and stop on the back of these drivers. If he can stay within DRS range, all is not lost. We've said it's not mightily powerful at this circuit, but all is certainly not lost for him in this race. Even if he drops out, he could do a fantastic job as he'll be on the medium tyres later on in this race when Cavaton and Clay are on those slower, hard sets of tyres. We don't believe there are going to be any weather changes. We do think it is going to be dry right towards the end, even if it is looking decidedly overcast at the moment. I think things are settling down into a bit more of a rhythm now. I think we've had a bit of a chaos over the first few laps. Everyone now just settling into that league racing esports rhythm for the first stint. And we'll wait and see what happens later on as Ika Baena already there, getting a 3-second time penalty for multiple track limits. Not ideal whatsoever for the Spaniard. Unsurprisingly, Cavaton setting the fastest lap of the race as him and Clay almost broken that DRS range back to Ronha.
Yeah, it's going to be very tricky for Thomas Ronha to keep with these two, but as long as he's within that DRS range, he's going to have that advantage down the start, finish straight, and at least to just keep himself within that 1 second window that he needs. But through this S's section, I'd imagine is where it's going to be the most tricky for the Dutchman. However, he's just got to play the long game at this point. If you look at the batteries of the leaders, they've been pushing so much just to drop Thomas Ronha on the slower tyres. Alvaro Caraton has just about 20% in the battery. Shinaka Clay has 40%. Thomas Ronha has got 50% in the battery, so even though he's not the best off at the moment out of that top 3, he is in the best position in terms of ERS. To his list of things that are going well for him at this point, he's dropped Georges Nader from his DRS range. He's now a second clear of the Alpine. That's going to leave him vulnerable to the likes of Max Viso and crucially Tino now Karinen on his set of the mediums in behind. What can the Finn do? We'll have to wait and see, but already this is shaping up to be a very intense race here at Suzuka.
Yeah, definitely. They've sort of put a bit of a split in the field of the Williams with that pace. Briefly, Gonhard got back within DRS range. He has dropped out of it now, and Nader has managed to get back in. So you'll see the rear wing on the Haas stay decidedly shut across the line, and you'll see the rear wing open on the Alpine, which could help him defend, but I don't think he needs to worry about that at the moment. Swap for the lead then. Clay on the inside of Cavaton at the start of lap number 5. Didn't look like Cavaton was really fighting too much at the moment. And these two, they can be sensible. They can work together at the moment. Just try to extend that gap as Clay has a bit of a wobble coming through the first sector. So they definitely do need to be a bit careful that they don't push too hard. Further back, we've got plenty of battling going on. Baenum and Carter Lundy, they have been fighting and they've also dropped off the back of this field. And at the back of this train, unable to find his way through at the moment, is Jarno Opmeer, the man who had a fantastic chance of taking the championship lead going into tonight. As things stand at the moment, the lead will be going to a Dutch driver, but it would be Thomas Ronha.
Yeah, it's not looking good for Jarno Opmeer at the moment. We all know that he does find his ways in towards the point, you know, whether that be a safety car or some strategy decision that he makes, or just pure talent that we know that the Dutchman has. He will find his way up the order at some point, but maybe it's taking that little bit longer than he would like at this point. Still running in 18th position, which is effectively last at this point, given that Haddad has DNF'd and Van Erven is out of this session. So it's not looking good for the Dutchman right at the back of this train, even though that being said, the gap to the leader, he's only 10 seconds off the back. So if something drastic does happen up ahead, Jarno Opmeer, he still could find a decent position out of this one today.
Yeah, definitely. He seems to be a bit of a master of the overcut on this game, going a tiny bit longer. Whether he does go to a set of softs later on, we'll wait and see. He'll be incredibly fast on that set of softs, but would have all sorts of work to do on those and might just find it a bit tough to get the overtakes done. Interestingly, at the front of the field, Caviton stayed behind Clay on that lap, and it started to come together a bit more. Ronha has got more DRS and has got back within DRS range. George Dada just hanging in that DRS range as well, and he's dragging along Viso, now Karainen, Pedreño, Luck, Benham, Bianca Lila, and the rest of those pack that are just outside the top 10. This is bad news if you're one of the Williams drivers, or now Karainen or Luck on a set of the medium tyres. It's great news if you're Ronha, Nader, and Viso, because things are just going to come your way later on. But we are in the calm before the storm, the typical F1, I don't want to say lull that you get in league racing, but at this point in the race, people are just finding a bit of a rhythm at the moment. They don't want to do anything silly. They don't want to get themselves a penalty. Just if they've got any tyre concerns, any fuel concerns, now's a good time while you're in a slipstream to save a tiny bit. Just give yourself that bit of flexibility on the strategy. I can't see too much changing towards the front of the order at the moment. Where something could change, though, is the battle for 10th place. Soriano all over the back of Bianca Lila. At the moment, flat out through 130R, even in the DTM, might be able to make a move. Round the outside here, the Italian on Manuel Bianca Lila. Brilliant move by Soriano there, but Bianca Lila gets the traction out of the corner and is able to hold on to that 10th place. It looked for all the world as though the Ferrari was going to come out on top of that one, and he still might, being squeezed towards the wall. Down the inside in towards turn number 1. The two still going side by side here, and this could just allow Jake Benham to escape that tiny little bit. They're still managing to avoid making contact, and finally, Soriano gets the move done. Now, he's got to burn his ERS to get back onto Benham.
That was incredible commitment from Soriano to go both around the outside at the Casio triangle and then to go down the inside at turn number 1 where it looked like the door was firmly shut. Manuel Biancalila did a great job defending for as long. Soriano behind for almost a sector more than he would have wanted to. So what Soriano wanted to. So I think Biancalila, you got to give him credit there, especially for allowing him to have that space, because he wasn't really alongside him towards that first corner, and Soriano forced his way through. Biancalila, very respectful racing, and I think the pair of them, they're going to be quite pleased with how that one turned out, just because of it just looked fun to drive, I'd say.
Yeah, it's always great when you can have those, respectful battles with other drivers. You tend to know which ones you can go side by side with, which ones will give you the room, which ones won't give you the room. Someone who needs to give the track limits a bit more room is Shanaka Clay at the moment. Already, our race leader has a 3-second penalty after only 7 laps. This is not ideal whatsoever for Clay at the moment, and after a brilliant start to the race for the Williams, all of a sudden it's not looking as great as it once was, and maybe they need to start putting their eggs in towards the Caviton basket, as he's got a lot more VRS at the moment and hasn't got any penalties. Further back, we've got Perigny and Parnell battling over 16th, 17th, and 16th, 17th with Jarno Montmia in 18th at the moment. He's still in that annoying third man in a DRS train, unable to get any moves done at the moment and just dropping a bit further off the field. He was 10 seconds off the lead. He's now only 11.7 seconds off the lead. Might need a safety car or something to get back into this race. De Capua now picking up a time penalty. They're all pushing hard in this first stint, not taking it as easy as you perhaps might have expected, as Perigny gets out the way, and that is Otmia into 17th.
Yeah, I knew that penalties would be frequent, but maybe a little bit more than we would have hoped so far in this race. And I think if Alvaro Carreton is going to be closing up in the next few laps to Shanaka Clay, we could see a switch between the two Williams cars, and then Shanaka could act as maybe a rear gunner, try and hold up Thomas Ronha for as long as he can, allow Alvaro Carreton to escape up the road. Seems like that's the best chance of the Williams winning this race today, because Thomas Ronha, even though he's in third position, I would still say he is the man in control of this race. They head on towards lap number 9. We're nearing 1/3 of this race done. I'd say those medium tyres are not going to be in the best condition, and I'd say those hards strapped on to the likes of Ronha, Nader and Wiesel are going to be gearing into this race, and they will begin to phase in here, try and get close to the back of the Williams cars and make their moves for the lead of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, certainly. Earliest pit stop off the medium tyres, probably You know, lap 10, if you're trying something really different, more likely to be around about lap 11, lap 12, we start seeing the first drivers come in off the hard tyres. I wouldn't be surprised if someone on those tried lap 12 as well, you know, for a really aggressive undercut. If you are perhaps the likes of Jake Benner, Mirko Saviano, Ruben Pedrinho, in 7th place at the moment. 4 of the last 5 races, he's finished in the top 4. Doesn't look like you might be able to, at the moment, just wait and see what he can do in the second stint and take advantage of the mediums to work his way possibly past Nalkavainen and the 2 Williams. I agree with you, Dan. I think maybe in the second stint, the best thing to do would be to see if Clay can act as a bit of a rear gunner, because we know it's not easy to overtake around this track. Even if you have got the DRS, Shinaka might be able to make it a bit tough, but he's going to have a tyre disadvantage to Ron Horn, Nadar, Wiesel, and anyone else who could possibly want to challenge for this race win. It's going to be an intriguing one. I think we can certainly guarantee that at the moment as they make their way around the chicane for the night time. No changes at the moment, and I don't believe anyone yet thinking about making their way in towards the pits. It has closed up a bit though, the field. Carter Lundy's managed to get back onto this train, and with Ron Hard getting back in, we have now got a 15-car train for the lead of this race. Only Parnell, Opnium and Perrignet not in that train, and in fact, the Aston Martin pits from 18th.
It's a very early pit stop for Simon Perrignet. Finally, Jarno Opmeer has been able to make a move as well on Liam Parnell, given that there was no Simon in the way. So that means Jarno Opmeer can finally try and get his race underway. He's 1.5 seconds off the back of Carter Lundy, and then ahead of him is 2 drivers with time penalties. So all in all, he's not that far off a points paying position. He could still salvage something from this Grand Prix. I would say it's about 10 laps too late for him, and I really think his qualifying form just over the course of this season has sort of come to bite him at this point. Of course, he has improved in recent weeks, but it has not helped him out today. And around the circuit where it's so difficult to overtake, we've seen that so far today. Jarno Opmeer still got a lot to do, as he's in 16th, but I'd say he's really got to work hard here.
Yeah, definitely. He's going to be on the back foot, I think, going into the final 2 races. Now, we did see our only pit stop of the race so far from the Aston Martin, and Simon Perrignet, the Frenchman, has come out on a set of the soft tyres. They are definitely not getting you 18 laps in this race. So, either that was a bit of a mistake, he's just having a bit of fun at the moment, or we could possibly see some rain in this race, and maybe he's thinking that it's worth just going on these soft tyres, getting a bit of pace in, and seeing what can happen. But yeah, very interesting from the Frenchman there, as he runs very wide, actually coming through Spoon, that he has gone for that set of soft tyres at the front of the field. I think we're starting to see that the mediums aren't the tyres to be on at the moment. Ron Hall really putting some pressure on Cavaton. Doesn't want to get too close at this point of the circuit. Doesn't want to, lose a bit of performance in the dirty air. Doesn't want to burn his tyres up too much. But it's starting to look very good again. Could get that second win in a row. And again, with how things are at the moment, that'd be good enough for the championship lead. He's got so much more ERS than Shinaka Clay. Got a tiny bit more than Alvaro Cavaton at the moment. Everything is coming up Ron Harv at the moment.
He's got plenty of ERS in the battery. He's got the superior tyres. I think that what the Williams boys should do here is give Alvaro Caraton the priority in the pit stop phase, and I think pit him a lap earlier than Shinaka Clay. Normally, of course, it is the leading car that gets to come in first, but given that he doesn't have that time penalty, I think it is worth, and he's also got a lot more ERS, I think it's worth swapping the 2 Williams cars around at this point. Is Alvaro Caraton, is Shinaka Clay going to pit on this lap? We'll have to wait and see as they head through the final corners. Now the mediums are certainly not in the best position. There it is, Shinaka Clay, the leading car in this race, coming into the pits now. That's going to leave Alvaro Caraton vulnerable out in front. However, he's done a great job of dropping Thomas Ronhart around this lap, and that is because he's used up about 20% of his battery, so he is pushing. And normally, when we see the drivers using up all their battery on one lap, that means that they plan to pit this time by.
Yeah, it won't be surprising if the Spaniard dumps all that energy from the hybrid powertrain at the moment. That extra 150 horsepower that they can use from the MG UK and the MG UH, put it down where necessary, and just try and build up that bit of a gap at the moment and negate the undercut that Shinaka Clay would have had. Now, Clay's hard tyres will take some time to get up to temperature, so don't be surprised, even though he's pitted a lap later. But if he does pit this lap, don't be surprised if Cavaton actually comes out ahead of Shanaka Clay, and then himself will have that struggle with the tyre warm-up. That's something we've got to keep an eye out on this race for everyone who is going from the medium to the hard tyres, and you can see the gap has actually extended to 21 seconds at the moment. Blue Spanner and Screwdriver on the telemetry for Cavaton, suggesting he's coming into the pits this lap, and he has burning up this ERS as well. It's also on Thomas Ronhar's car, so we'll see whether he does follow Cavaton in, or whether he decides to take these hard tyres a tiny bit longer.
Be interesting to see at this point, as in towards now the pit lane area. Is Alvaro Caraton going to pit? Indeed he will. Thomas Ronhar decides to stay out, although at this point I would say that the mediums can go to the end. They've gone 12 laps at the beginning of this race. I'd say they can go an extra 3 at the end when they're lighter on fuel and using a bit less. They're putting less wear into the tyres, and I believe that Manuel Biancalila, he sees that vision. He is one of the only hard runners to come into the pit lane so far, and we've also seen Tino Nalkarinen and Keane Lutt, the other medium runners in this race, coming into the pit lane. So I'd say, Luke, we are going to have a very mixed up grid at the moment, as Simon Perigny has been disqualified.
Yeah, that's not something you see too often. Yeah, Simon Perigny's been disqualified. Now, he did say in the chat, in the Discord chat earlier, he's been having a few wheel issues, so I wonder if something's gone a bit wrong there, and the AI's taken his own interesting line through the final part of the circuit. Well, that is our effectively third retirement from the session, with Matthias Van Erven still not being there. Simon Perigny out of this session, alongside Daniel Haddad and Matthias Van Erven. Shanaka Clay, crucially for him, came out ahead of Alvaro Cavaton, and because his tyres are up to temperature, look at the difference he's made. He's got a 1.7 second gap over Cavaton at the moment. This is going to be very interesting when Ronhar, Nader and Max Wiesel, our lead trio on that set of the hard tyres, decide to come into the pits, especially now that Manuel Biancalila has tried something completely different. He's coming to the pits off the mediums as well. Into the pits comes George Nader. Max Wiesel almost, I think, accidentally following him in there. So we'll see where Nader comes out relative to the leaders. And also, his tyre warm-up won't be too bad because he's going onto a yellow walled set of mediums.
This is going to be crucial moments for the two Williams drivers. They're coming out of the final corners now. George Nader leaving the pit lane. They will be ahead of the Alpine car, but by how much? Is they going to roar past down on the start-finish straight? They're not going to be too far ahead. I'll tell you what, even though they've been able to undercut by a few laps here, the warm-up's not going to be great for Nader at the moment, but given that he's on the mediums, as you said, he is going to be in a good position to keep up with these guys. And that begs the question, where is Ronhar going to come out in all of this? How is he going to manage the two Williams drivers and the warm-up of the tyres? These are critical laps for Ronhar and the two Williams drivers, because I would say at this point, Luke, they are going to decide this race.
Yeah, and we've got side-by-side action again between Aston Martin and a Ferrari. Biancalina and Suriano almost going side-by-side through Dunlop there. Suriano just come out to the pits. His tyres aren't up to temperature at the moment. Down the inside into the hairpin. That's a bit of a brave move from the Italian. Makes it work. We were commending these two for not making contact with each other early on. That's gone out of the window now. This has turned into more BTCC racing than WOR at the moment. Biancalina gives Suriano a little bit of a tap coming through the S's. Perhaps the Ferrari thought that's what got him offline, and Suriano giving it as good as he's got there. So we'll see if there's any afters between those two. Suriano did report Biancalina to the stewards at the last race, and the Aston Martin driver got himself a 5-second penalty for that and dropped down towards 6th to 8th place. Wouldn't be surprised if they make their way towards the stewards office once more. Ronhar has stayed out. Viso Pereno and De Capua coming in on this lap. We'll see where they are relative to George Nader. Out of the pits comes George Nader, and he's a long way behind Max Wiesel there. So I believe that's Max actually gaining a place in all of this.
I think, though, the warm-up is going to be critical here. George Nader, can see he's got so much more grip at the moment than the cold tyres. We got a yellow flag in the first sector. That's Biancalila. That's gone around there, and I wonder, was there more contact with Mirko Suriano that has seen the Aston Martin go for a spin? And I'd really hope not, because we were giving these two praise earlier on in this race for how clean their battle was. And if that is the case, then things have certainly gone sour between the pair of them. But George Nader, I'd imagine at this point, Max Wiesel's tyres have been able to warm up and he is now going to be firmly behind the German driver. So I'm just wondering, there's so many twists in this tale. Where is Ronhard going to emerge?
Yeah, I mean, looking at the gaps at the moment, Ronhard's 20.4 seconds behind, ahead of Shinaka Clay, sorry, 21.2 ahead of Alvaro Cavaton, so might still come out in and around that. I think it could be pretty close. Jake Benham into the pits then. Ronhard's doing what he did in America. He's going quite a bit longer. Yes, he'll lose track position, but he knows he'll have much pressure tyres at the end of the race, and I think he's just got that confidence that he can go out there on the better tyres and set some fantastic lap times. Soriano and Caden Lutt battling further back there. Soriano getting ahead of Lutt on his medium, so he's up towards 12. Ruben Pedreño, he's managed to jump Tino Naukavainen in all of that, so it's good news for him as Benham starts plummeting down the order. It's going to be intriguing to see where Ronhard comes out. I think at the moment, he's coming out between Cavaton and Max Wiesel. After this lap for Max, obviously, once the mediums are up to temperature, he might end up dropping behind the AlphaTauri driver, who, I just had a quick look here, he's actually on the longest point scoring streak of anyone. He's got points in each of the last 6 races, and that's all the races he's taken part in. So great job from Max Wiesel. And who knows, at the moment, could even have a slight chance of getting his first podium of the season, with Clay having that penalty.
I would like to see Max Wiesel on the podium, of course. A former PlayStation driver. I've always got sentiment for those guys, given that the pair of us actually came up from the PlayStation platform. It's great to see everyone doing so well on the PC, and I really would love to see Max Wiesel on the podium. But of course, that is not decided yet as Thomas Ronhard comes through the final few corners. Surely this time he's coming into the pit lane. Indeed, he is in towards the pits now for the Haas driver. And where is he going to emerge? I'd imagine he is definitely going to be behind the 2 Williams cars. But in relation to Max Wiesel, where is he going to be? Will he be ahead, or will he be just about behind as he's getting his car service now in the box? Jack West and Jan Ortmeier, they're going long, as is Liam Parnell, most likely hoping for a safety car in this race, as now Ronhard exiting the pit lane now. He's going to be behind Clay, behind Caraton, but it will emerge ahead of Max Wiesel. Wiesel knows that if he wants the shot at getting past, he's got to go now, because those tyres are going to be cold on that Haas car as they head through the S's section. Now you can see the superiority in grip that the German driver has, but Thomas Ronhard, we know how good he is at defending as they come through the Dunlop curve now. I don't believe Max Wiesel is going to be able to get close enough, and even if he did, Ronhard has got 67% of his battery to defend with, so I would say he is firmly in the hunt for the lead of this Grand Prix with just over 10 laps to go.
Yeah, I think best case scenario there for Thomas Ronhard, still managing to be the lead medium runner and knowing that he's got the better tyres than Clay and Cavaton. And of course, Clay's got a penalty, so doesn't even need to overtake him out on track at the moment. It was interesting watching that battle from Max Wiesel's point of view. We got a bit spooked in towards turn number 1, just I think was too busy paying attention to Thomas Ronhard, realised he'd missed the braking zone by about 10 metres and ended up running very wide through the first corner. Thankfully for him, was able to stay out on circuit and stay ahead of Georges Nader, but we've now got this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 car train for the lead. Clay, Cavaton, Ronhard, Wiesel, Nader and Pedreño. Jarno Opmia comes into the pits from second place. He's going to drop outside of the points after all of this. And does Ronhard makes his moves? Is he going to go for it early on? Is he going to wait for the hard tyres just to start wearing on Caraton's and Clay's car? Because by the end of this stint, those hards could be, back in performance parity with the medium. So I think he's got to make the move sooner rather than later here.
Absolutely. If not both, I would say he does have to get past Alvaro as soon as he can, because he is realistically the driver that he is racing for the win, given that Clay has that penalty to his name, and I think Ronhard knows this. He's getting very close. They head through the Dunlop curb and in towards the Degners. Could we see maybe a dive bomb in towards the hairpin? We'll have to wait and see. Ronhard's got a very nice exit through here, using the battery in towards the braking zone. They go. Ronhard looking for the move. He couldn't quite find the dive bomb opportunity, but off the exit here, he's going to go underneath Alvaro Caraton, and they're going to run wheel to wheel off the exit here. Ronhard left out to dry on the outside line, headed in towards Boone curb now. Can Alvaro Caraton stay ahead through here? If Ronhard gets the better run off the exit, you'd think surely a move on 130R is certainly on the table, as off the exit through here now, using up the battery in the wheel tracks of the Williams car. Can he get close enough to try for a move? I don't believe so. I think he's backed out of it this time. He knows he has of course, headed in towards the last few laps of this race. He has got the superior tyre grip, and he is really just going to push Alvaro Carreton to his limits for these next few laps.
I don't think he intended to go for the move into the hairpin there. I think Carreton was just expecting the move to happen, left the door open on the exit, and Thomas Ronhoff, as any one of these drivers would do, I don't think anyone who's done league racing would do. He tried to fill that gap, but was not quite able to do so. What this pace has done is briefly dropped Max Wiesel outside of DRS range, as you can just see the grip Ronald's got at the moment, coming out of turn number 2, having to lift out of the throttle to avoid slamming into the back of the Williams van. He's going to be getting a bit frustrated at the moment, but I think he knows he's got the pace, almost able to get alongside there. Coming up towards the Degners, could we see an attempt into the hairpin again?
Well, we'll have to wait and see. Is off the exit of Degner 2 now. Is he going to use the battery? Indeed, he will. Is Alvaro Carreton going to expect this one? Defending slightly harsh into the inside, but Thomas Ronhard's a lot more committed this time by, as in towards now off the exit and in towards Spoon. Can Thomas Ronhard secure this move finally for P2 on the road with what is essentially the net race lead of this Grand Prix? Indeed, he can. Alvaro Carreton, eventually, after a lap of battling, has to concede to the Dutchman, and now Thomas Ronhard, he has got Shanaka Clay in his crosshairs for the net race lead. Of course, we're still waiting for Liam Parnell to come into the pits, clearly hoping for a safety car. Boxes, you would think Clay, Ronhard, Carreton, that is the top 3.
Yeah, it is, and of course, with things as they are at the moment, Shanaka Clay would drop to the back of this train. He'd drop behind Ruben Pedreño with his penalty. That's not to say there's not been a double warning, or perhaps he might be able to try and get that penalty removed. Just further back, here comes Max Wiesel round the outside at turn number 1. He's going to attempt it on Alvaro Carreton. Quite managed to do that on this occasion, but you can just see how much more pace his medium tyres have got at the moment. Carreton has already dropped more than a second behind Thomas Ronhard, so he could be a sitting duck on the next lap. And for Wiesel, Nader and Pedreño, they need to make this move now or never, really. Otherwise, Thomas Ronald's going to wave bye-bye once again, and they're not going to have any chance of taking a victory here. Already, Ronhard all over the back of Shanaka Clay. Managed one successful move into the hairpin. He's too far behind on this occasion. But I think heading down the finish straight on the next lap, Clay's going to have absolutely nothing to defend with.
Absolutely nothing at all, and Ronhard knows this. He's right on the back of Shanaka Clay. You saw the yellow flags out for Ikabaina, I think, going into the gravel at the Dunlop curb, as here comes Thomas Ronhard, now 1.5 tenths off of the back of the Williams car. In towards 130R they go. Is Ronhard going to commit now? Is he just going to hang back for the time being? He's not using the battery, but he is closing that gap in the wheel tracks of Shanaka Clay, as here he comes through 130R. Can Thomas Ronhard do this towards the outside line at the braking zone? Clay shuts the door on the outside line. Ronhard, though, has he got the better exit? He's going to have the DRS this time by, opening up the rear wing at this point now, using up the battery. Clay defending to the inside line as here he comes now in towards the first corner. He's going to have to go the long way round to the outside line. Thomas Ronhard, can he make this one stick? He's forced off the road by Shanaka Clay, and he has to stay behind for at least a few more sectors. Good defending, I would say, from Shanaka Clay. It was hard racing, and they weren't fully alongside in towards the corner, but I think Thomas Ronhard is going to feel slightly hard done by there, and I think he knows he should have had that move by that point.
Yeah, Clay just about doing enough to keep Ronhard behind. I wonder now whether Ronhard's thinking, right, tried it in towards turn number 1. Hasn't worked. Shall I maybe give it a go into the Casio triangle? He's not going to be close enough into the hairpin this time around, unless he goes for a bit of a Suriano send from what we saw early on. But no, Ronhard, I think, wise enough to stay behind for now. What this is doing, because you might be wondering why on earth is Clay defending so hard. He's got a 3-second penalty. Again, we don't know if that penalty is going to get removed, but it's keeping Carreton in this battle as well. Wiesel, Nader and Pedreño and Jake Benham are all still in this bit of a train. In fact, Jake Benham's been able to get onto the back of this train now. All of a sudden, let's not forget the former PC champion still has a chance of winning that PC championship this year as well. But here comes Thomas Ronhard once more, follows his way through 130R, inside line, looks to be open there, and the Haas driver decides on this occasion he's not too interested about going for it. Can he get the better exit once more? We're going to see Clay dumping his battery, and Ronhard, I think, just hit that phantom curb there, and I'm not sure he's going to be close enough again for a move down in towards turn number 1. Thinks about the inside, thinks about the outside, tries for dummy, And in the end, I think Clay almost saw that one coming, and just about, he's going to hold on. Side by side, they're going to go through the S's.
Wow.
Clay's having to defend for his life here. He's driving the widest Williams in Suzuka.
Yeah, and Alvaro Carreton is going to be loving this. He is being brought back into this fight for the lead. Thomas Ronhaar is going to be absolutely fuming in his cockpit. He really did dump the battery trying to make that move. And I think, out of frustration, we could see a dive bomb in towards the hairpin as here comes Thomas Ronhaar once again on the back of the Williams. In towards the braking zone they go, sending it up the inside. Is Thomas Ronhaar going to make this one stick? He's going to have the worst off exit, but with the superior tyre grip of 5-lap pressure, medium compound of tyres, surely on the inside line he's going to be able to hold off Shanaka Clay, but Clay will have that inside in towards Spoon Curve. And finally, 3 laps later I'd say than what he would have liked, Thomas Ronhaar leads this race. He's got by on Shanaka Clay, who did an admirable job of defending. I expect at this point, Luke, he's going to allow Alvaro Carreton to go past in towards maybe the first corner, or is he going to try and fight this one back in towards the Casio triangle? He'll have the DRS down the start-finish straight, and maybe we could see Shanaka Clay having a go at Ronhaar here, as off the exit of the final corner. Not the best run for the Williams car, but he's using all the battery with the DRS. Is Ronhaar going to defend to the inside? You bet he will. Here comes Clay to the outside line at turn number 1 and 2. Ronhaar just about, though, Luke, stays ahead through here.
This has not been as straightforward as I think I expected it to be, and I don't think it's as straightforward as Thomas Ronhaar expected it to be at the moment. Shanaka Clay's fighting for all his worth at the moment. Now through the S's might just be where he struggles a tiny bit more, but he's got good straight line speed, and despite having 5-lap older tyres and having the harder set of tyres, he's still getting good traction at the moment. You'd expect those mediums until the end of the race to probably have the advantage over the hards. On the final lap, it might be pretty even between Ronhaar's and Clay's tyres. But yeah, they're doing a great job at the moment. And I'm not sure Clay is going to let Carreton by at the moment. Neither of these two are really in the championship battle. Clay, the way he's been driving suggests to me that he thinks he can get a penalty removed. Either that or he's just having a bit of fun out there, and who can really blame him? Yeah, Ronhaar's had to work extremely hard. I think now, though, he's just got far enough ahead that he should be safe on this lap. That's not to say in a few laps' time he might not come under any more pressure. Someone who is looking a bit racy, though, Jake Benham, briefly there, getting within 0.2 of a second of Ruben Pedreño. Could we see Benham start to move his way up the order? As we mentioned, he's still in this championship hunt as well at the moment. Not too far off the back of his teammate Jarno Opmeer, who's struggling down in 14th at the moment. It's going to be fascinating. You'd be a brave person to call the podium at the moment. I think Ronhaar is going to take the victory. Who knows who could end up in second place, though?
I am at a loss, I would say, at this point. And some bad news for myself. I've just run out of water. So these last few laps are going to be very, very difficult for me to get through. But we'll have to wait and see. I'd imagine, though, we are still in for a lot more battling, because Jake Benham got slightly fresher tyres than those around him. However, he is in that DRS train. It's so difficult to overtake around this circuit that he's really got to be committed if he wants to go for an overtake on Ruben Pedreño in front of him. These two, of course, title rivals at this point. They have slightly less of a chance of winning than the likes of Jarno Opmeer and Thomas Ronhaar, but they are both certainly still in the fight. And Jake Benham now with a decent run headed in towards Spoon Curve. Can he try for the move on Ruben Pedreño? Not quite this time by. I would say the Spaniard is certainly feeling the pressure from Jake at this point. As off the exit and in towards 130R, Shanaka Clay is going to be holding this train up now, because he has not got DRS on Thomas Ronhaar in front of him. He's been able to stretch that advantage ahead of his rival, and he's done a great job of doing so. Jake Benham in towards the Casio triangle. Can't quite find a move on entry. What about on the exit? Can he try for it on Ruben Pedreño here, as now using up some of the battery and opening up the DRS? Can he close that gap to Ruben Pedreño in front of him? I don't believe so, Luke, unfortunately this time.
No, that was a bit of a weird one, that. It just looked as though Pedreño went a bit deep into the corner, almost went into the back of George Dana and compromised his line, and I think thankfully for him had the DRS, and that did end up saving him. Oh! Contact! Lundy and Opmeer just caught the tail end of that one. They were going side by side through turn number 2, and Jarno, I think the way today's gone, not too surprised to see he has had enough. Jarno Opmeer effectively our 4th retirement from this race, and with Ronhar winning, it's not over, obviously, for obvious title chances yet, but it is going to be a lot harder. It'll be 17 points behind going into the final 2 races as things stand at the moment. Yeah, it's not been an ideal race there between those two, but further up the field, got Pedreño and Benham battling as they come through the hairpin there, and it looks as though Benham still got a bit of a wheel alongside here as they make their way in towards Spoon Curve. Who's it going to be? Pedreño holds out on top, and Benham has to take avoided action. And that's dragged Subiano now combining into Capua and Caden Lutz into this train.
Oh my word, with just over 2 laps to go, we are certainly not being starved of any action here, because this has been a very fun Japanese Grand Prix. His teammate here, and possibly using the DRS, which is a luxury that Clay does not have. He'll be able to blitz by and towards turn number 1, and there is really no competition there. Alvaro Carreton able to get into P2 on circuit, of course, with the penalty being applied to Shanaka Clay. He'd have been able to take that position anyways, but that is going to leave him vulnerable to the likes of Max Wiesel and Georges Nader in behind. However, this once again could be a strategical decision from the Williams boys. They know that Ronhar is out of reach at this point. Give Shanaka the DRS and try and give some more pace from Alvaro Carreton so that they could possibly pull away from the medium runners in behind. We'll have to wait and see how this works out. They've done it quite late here because we've only got a lap and a half of racing left at the Suzuka circuit. But Luke, for round number 13, the championship is beginning to draw to a close. We are still having some of the most committed racers on the PC platform here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we've seen brilliant moves so far. We've seen some moves that haven't quite worked off, I think, as well as people would have hoped. Williams going for that last-minute swap, and it looks as though Carreton's just tried to burn up as much of his battery as possible to see whether he can get within 1 second of Thomas Ronhar. So they're thinking more here about getting that race victory, obviously, than they are protecting Clay from further back. It's going to be almightily close. If he gets a good enough exit out of the final chicane, he might be able to get within that 1 second, but it looks as though he's going to come tantalisingly close. And I think Thomas Ronhar is just about going to hang on to this one. Further back, Caden Lutz and Alessio Capua fighting like crazy over what is the final points position. Lutz is going to get it anyway because of Capua's penalty, but he wants to get it out on track here. Down the inside he comes on the harder tyres as well. And that is Caden Lutz on for his first points of the season at the moment. And all of a sudden, at the top of the field, things have really spread out, and it's now Ruben Pedreño all over the back of George Nader for what would be 5th place on track and 4th place after penalties.
Yeah, and of course the DRS not mattering anymore at the moment. However, he's lost a lot of time to Max Wiesel, and if Ruben Pedreño can get close enough to the back of the Alpine car, he could be in a world of danger. Is he going to try for the move in towards the hairpin? He's very far back. Ruben Pedreño doesn't care, and he's tapped him. Ruben Pedreño bit too late on the brakes, I would say there, and Georges Nader then into what is looking like a half spin. I'd say he's been able to hold on here, but I think that is certainly one that goes to the stewards. Ruben Pedreño, I think desperation really has just set in there. I think he's going to cost himself greatly for that one. However, at the front of the order, Thomas Ronhar, with just 1 sector to go left in this race. He had the superior strategy at this point. He was able to be committed. He fended off Alvaro Carreton, Shanaka Clay, and Max Wiesel in behind. Here he comes, Thomas Ronhar to the line, and he takes victory in Japan.
Fantastic victory from Ronhar. Carreton in 2nd, Wiesel in 3rd. In the end, Shanaka Clay holds on to 4th in the end with all the chaos further back. Jake Benham 5th, Pedreño, Subiano now combining Nader and Lutt, the final point scorers. Jack West just missing out. It would not surprise me whatsoever if Pedreño gets a penalty from that one. The door was open, but by the time Pedreño got alongside, he was too far back and the door was not open. Drive through the day for Liam Parnell. Went for a bit of a scary strategy, going for the soft tyres at the end of that race, but Thomas Ronhar, fantastic performance from him, takes the championship lead. And with the form he's in, 2 rounds to go, I think you'd be a brave man to bet against him.
Absolutely, and with a disappointing day for his main championship rival in Jarno Opmeer, you'd have to say that he is in a great position to take this championship. Really well done. I hope we can get to speak to him, but he is going to celebrate atop the podium alongside Alvaro Carreton and Max Wiesel getting his first podium this season and continuing his points running streak. A really good job from all the top 3 drivers today. It was a fantastic race in the end, and I think everyone is going to be talking about this one for a little bit on Twitter. I mean, there was plenty of talking points really to go off of here, but I think the main story is, I guess there's 2 main stories. It's Thomas Ronhaar being as dominant as ever, and Jarno Opmeer really struggling today.
Yeah, definitely did not go well for Opmeer straight away from qualifying, and we said around here it's not an easy track to overtake on, and he found that to be the case. It had moved quite a long way up the field, may have been on the edge of the points, but that contact with Lundy ended any hope of that. It's Ronhaar who takes the victory, Carreton in second, Max Wiesel his first podium of the season, Clay fourth after his penalty, Benham, Pedreño, Subiano, now Karainen, Nader and Lutt rounding out the top 10, Jack West in 11th, Alessio De Capua 12th, Lundy 13th, Liam Parnell 14th, Biancalila, Baena. The final finishers, Opmeer and Van Erven, were disconnected, and Simon Perrinier and Daniele Haddad were the retirements. From, like you said, Dan, it was a very interesting race, that one. We thought with the strategy Ronhaar had gone for, that might end up being comfortably the best one, but Carreton and Clay made it exceptionally hard for him.
Absolutely. I mean, given that he had the better strategy early on and he was able to keep with the 2 Williams, when their tyres were at their best, I thought, okay, Thomas Ronhaar's easily going to win this one. I could not be more wrong. I did say it was dominant from Ronhaar. I tell a lie. I mean, that wasn't a dominant victory. He was certainly the best man on circuit here today, but you do have to give credit where credit is due. Shinaka Clay's defending on older, hard compound of tyres by quite some margin. It was about 5 laps, I think the difference was, between Ronhaar and Clay's tyres. He was able to hold off the charging Haas car for a good few laps, and I really do think that he should be commended on that one there. And they don't call him the king for nothing, really. Of course, I think we do have to give major props to Clay today.
Yeah, he's done a superb job there as Clay. Fought for all his worth, and in the end, with all the dramas and chaos that's happened in the background, has only lost out 1 place after that 3-second penalty. He's only lost out that place to Max Wiesel, so not too bad whatsoever. I think he'd have, after getting a 3-second time penalty when you're still in single-figure laps in the race, I think, to be perfectly honest, he probably would have taken 4th place out of all that one, so not bad whatsoever. Now, these are the provisional updated championship standings, because I think, certainly, if your name's Ruben Pedreño, you may well be taking a visit to the stewards. George Nader certainly not happy about that move. Thomas Ronhaar now leads the championship on 136 points. Lucas Blakely still in second on 124. Jarno still third on 119. Ruben Pedreño, I think, provisionally remaining in 4th on 113. But he could end up dropping back. And Jake Benham there on 107 points at the moment. It's very close at the moment. Ronhaar, though, just looks like he's got a bit more pace than everyone else where it really matters. Carbon copy of what he did in USA. He stayed out longer in the first stint and used the fresher tyres to make his way through the field. He's going to be tough to stop.
He really is. At this point, I do hope we can get him in for an interview. I'm just looking the Discord now. There's no one waiting in the channel, and I've just looked in the PC Tier 1 chat. No words from him. Georges Nader's just put the Mario Balotelli gif. Why always me? I feel really bad for him at the end of the day. Ruben Pedreño has put a little sad emoji beneath it, so and you have as well, actually. So I think you really do feel for him there, and hopefully there's no bad blood between the pair of them. Because of course this is league racing at the end of the day. I can see that Max Wiesel does want to join. Hopefully we can get him in. He's in one of the voice channels, but I don't know how we can pull him in.
Yeah, he seems to be having a bit of a problem joining the main voice channel at the moment, but we'll see if we can try something out. I've zoomed out on Discord, made everything as small as possible so I can drag him across, and I believe we do now have the man who finished in 3rd place, Max Wiesel.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, Max. Congratulations on your first podium of the season. It looked like it was quite a fun race for yourself out there.
Yeah, it was a good race. I was well prepared as I did many races before for Aston Martin for the last event for esports. Was a bit unlucky. I had contact with Carreton and lost a bit of my front wing the last 7 laps, which make it even more difficult to keep P3. But at the end, yeah, it was a competitive grid, I think, and I'm really happy with the result.
Yeah, definitely a fantastic race from yourself. You've done a brilliant job all season. We mentioned in the stream you'd scored points in every race that you've taken part in so far. That's now 7 races in a row that you've scored points. You've had a brilliant season. Is there any reason why you think you're doing so well on your transition to PC?
That's a good question. I have no idea, to be honest. I really enjoyed to play on a bit higher graphics and a bit more frames, but I'm not sure if it's the reason, or maybe come from Fanatec to SimoCube. No idea, but at the end, especially WOR finish in every race I take part or took part on it is quite good, and I'm really happy with it.
And heading into the final 2 races of the season, next week we've got Brazil. Do you think you can get a podium there once more? Possibly even challenge for the win again?
Well, no idea. I won the PSGL. Was my only win I'd had in the F2. So I should be quick there, and we will see. Maybe fighting for points again, and a podium would be nice. But yeah, we have enough fast driver out there, so still happy to have some points.
Yeah, definitely. It's been a fantastic season for yourself, and I'm sure we'll be seeing you have some great battles again in Brazil. But for now, thanks, Max, for joining. We'll speak to you again soon.
Thank you.
Doesn't look like we have got our top 2 at the moment. Not sure if they've been having the same trouble joining the voice chat as that Max has had, but he seems pretty relaxed about how things are going. And I loved how he just said, yeah, I'd love to say I knew why I was doing well. It's just happening, which I suppose is not bad, but I suppose that if it goes wrong, you're not quite sure why it's going wrong.
Yeah, it's just I really do like that attitude. I mean, I got a good chuckle out of that one, I'd say, and I'm very pleased that things are going well for him, and I hope things can continue. I'd love to see Max Wiesel back in the commentary box in the last 2 rounds for another interview. But Luke, next week, headed into Brazil. Of course, it's not the final race this season. Last season, though, it was, and that was won by Alvaro Carreton. Of course, we know he is likely going to be racing there again, given that it's the last few races of the F1 Esports calendar. Do you think he's got another good shot at taking the victory there?
I mean, there's no reason why not. Today, just did a brilliant job. I think we knew that strategy was never going to quite be the right one. Unfortunately for him, tends to be the way on this game. The meta is start on the harder tyres, go on to the mediums later on, especially with the tyre warm-up on this game being so much worse than it was. I mean, at one point, he was 2 seconds behind Shinaka Clay, and it wouldn't be surprised if Clay actually dropped back a bit just to help Carreton. But yeah, he's done a fantastic job today. I think obviously Ronhar's going to be up there again. Pedreño had a bit of a, by his high standards this season, he had a bit of a poor race. I think he'll fully admit that one. Contact obviously with George Nader, just a bit of desperation there. Still going to have a chance of winning the championship, but I'd be very surprised if we don't see that one. Unless they sort it out between them, which does happen quite a few times. The drivers sometimes just talk between themselves and decide not to take it to the stewards. I think if it does go to the stewards, Pedreño will certainly be getting a penalty. And there's still Jarno Opmeer. What can he do in the final races? We've learned many times already in this league and other leagues in esports not to write off Jarno Opmeer, but just had a bad race when he could really not afford it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not looking good for Jarno Opmeer at such a crucial point of the season. We did say at the beginning of this race, this is likely going to be championship defining, and it's going to be so critical to get a good result here, because realistically it's going to shape up your performance for the last 2 races. And if he's not got the confidence to take the fight to Thomas Ronhaar, then I don't know what's going to happen for Jarno Opmeer. It's looking like it's just about beginning to slip out of his grasp, and I'd really hate for that to happen. However, we know that the Flying Dutchman is a man of pure resilience, and of course he is a 2-time F1 Esports champion. You know, he is not going to take this one lying down. He's not going to let a rookie beat him or anything. So I think Jarno Opmeer, he'll come back in the next 2 races and he'll try his hardest to take the fight to Thomas Ronhaar. However, that is going to be a very steep mountain to climb.
Yeah, I think Ronald's now in a fantastic situation from his point of view, where assuming Lucas doesn't turn up for the last 2 races, which I think is a pretty safe assumption, Ronald can afford to finish second in those 2 races and still claim the championship victory. But we know he's not going to go for second. He's going to go all out. He's going to go for the win. But like you said, don't write off Opmeer. After the first event of esports this season, we'd have said no chance of winning the title. And he's right in there with one event to go, and I'm sure we're putting the effort in for Brazil and Abu Dhabi in 3 weeks' time to see what he can do.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to see how both F1 Esports and WOR end. However, I do think that we're not going to be able to see Thomas Ronhart or Alvaro Caraton, unfortunately, in the commentary box for an interview. So I believe that is all we have for this evening. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to watch today's stream. It was a great race here at Suzuka. Next week, we are headed to Interlagos for the Brazilian Grand Prix for the penultimate round of this championship, where the title fight is really heating up. Make sure you follow WOR on Twitter. It is at WOR League. Make sure you subscribe as well to the YouTube channel. It's the big red button beneath me. You cannot miss it. And then, of course, join our Discord. The link is in the description. If you want to follow me on Twitter, my @ is just below my name. It's DanFieldF1_. And if you want to follow Luke, it is Luke Etheridge 95. But from us, that is all. Make sure you stay safe. We will see you next week for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Thank you and good night.